بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد إخوة الإسلام عباد الله. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated in an authentic narration that is upon the authority of Abu Hurairah Ridwanullahi ta'ala alayh, لا يشكر الله من لا يشكر الناس, that he does not thank Allah, he who does not thank the people. So first and foremost, I would like to thank the brothers who put this particular lecture series together here at Masjid Ahlil Hadeeth for inviting me out to first and foremost benefit myself from the reminder and to benefit my brothers and sisters, for those who are listening online, from Ahlul Sunnah as it relates to the reminder that's going to be given tonight and tomorrow, bi'idhnillahi tabaraka wa ta'ala. And I'd like to start this reminder with an authentic narration that is muttafaqun alayh, meaning it is found in an authentic collection of both Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim. This particular narration, it is upon the authority of Jarir ibn Abdullah, where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he stated, "Innakum satarawna rabbakum iyanan." That indeed you all, or undoubtedly you all, will see your Lord with your eyes. You will see your Lord with your eyes. And another variation of this particular narration, slight difference in variation or wording. The narrator stated, خَرَجَ عَلَيْنَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ لَيْلَةَ الْبَدْرِ. The Prophet ﷺ, he came upon us during the night of the full moon. And he said to us, إِنَّكُمْ سَتَرَوْنَ رَبَّكُمْ كَمَا تَرَوْنَ هَذَا. He stated that you all, or undoubtedly you all, will see your Lord just as you all see this, referring to the full moon. وَلَا تُضَامُّونَ فِي رُؤْيَتِهِ. And there will be, you all will have no difficulty as it relates to seeing Him, to gazing at Him. Imam al-Nawawi, or rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, he has some commentary as it relates to this particular narration. He states, أي ترونه رؤية محققة لا شك فيها ولا مشقة كما ترون هذا القمر رؤية محققة بلا مشقة. He states what is intended is that your seeing will be a true seeing. It'll be actual seeing or looking at the Lord. And there is no doubt as it relates to that, nor will there be any difficulty concerning the looking at the Lord. Just as you all see this moon, this full moon. The looking at the full moon is a actual looking at the moon. That is, for any of us that sees a full moon, we're actually looking at the moon. It's not metaphorical. It's not allegorical. And just like we see a full moon at night, we have no difficulty in that regard. We have no difficulty in that regard. So he continues, فَهُوَ تَشْبِيهٌ لِلرُّؤْيَا بِالرُّؤْيَا. So the statement of the Prophet ﷺ it is giving a similitude or making a likeness between one type of looking with another type of looking. وَرُؤْيَا مُخْتَصَّةٌ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And the looking on Yawm al-Qiyamah at the Lord, this is specific to the believer. This is specific to the believer. وَأَمَّا الْكُفَّارِ فَلَا يَرَوْنَهُ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى. As for the disbelievers, then they will not gaze at He, the glorified and exalted. They will not be able to see Him. Ikhwatul Islam, ya ibadallah, these narrations point to the virtue that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will bestow upon the believers on this day. That He will grant them the reward of gazing at Him, and will bar those that stood in disobedience, that stood in rejection of the truth, that stood in following desires, that fought for that which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala was displeased with in the absolute sense. They will be barred from being able to gaze at the Lord. This particular reality is illustrated throughout the text of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. From the statements of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala that point to this is a statement of Allah in Surah Qaf, verses 31 through 35, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. And when the paradise will be brought close to those that have at-taqwa, and it will not be made distant from them. هَذَا مَا تُوعَدُونَ لِكُلِّ أَوَّابٍ حَفِيظٍ. This is what has been promised to every person that returns, who returns to seeking forgiveness, and everyone that preserves their covenant with Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. مَنْ خَشِيَ الرَّحْمَنَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَجَاءَ بِقَلْبٍ مُنِيبٍ. Those that fear Ar-Rahman when they're not seen in front of anyone, and they come to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala with a repentant heart. They come with a repentant heart. أُدْخُلُوهَا بِسَلَامٍ ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْخُلُودِ. Enter it, meaning the paradise, upon peace and tranquility. This is the day that is lasting. لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيدٌ. And for them, there is whatsoever they will or they want. And for them, in it, in the paradise, is whatsoever they want, whatsoever they will, whatsoever they desire, and upon us is an increase, as it relates to that. An increase, on that, on them getting whatever it is that they desire. Al-Imam al-Lalaka'i, in his monumentous and tremendous work, Sharh Usul I'tiqad Ahl al-Sunnati wal-Jama'ah, he states, روي عن علي وأنس بن مالك أو أنس ابن مالك أنه النذر إلى وجه الله. He stated that it is narrated from Ali, ibn Abi Talib, and Anas ibn Malik, that what is intended by وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيد, and with us is an increase to whatever it is that they desire. What is intended by that is that they will be looking at the face of Allah. They will be looking at the face of Allah. Likewise, we have the statement of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in Surah Yunus, verse 26, where Allah says, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى وَزِيَادَةً. And for those that do good is good and an addition. And an addition, yani to that good that they will receive. Imam al-Lalaka'i, he states concerning Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and Hudhayfa ibn al-Yaman, Ridwan Allahi ta'ala alayhima, he says, أَنَّهُمَا قَالَا, that the two of them said, لِلَّذِينَ أَحْسَنُوا الْحُسْنَى أي الْجَنَّةِ وَالزِّيَادَةِ قَالَا النَّظَرُ إِلَى وَجْهِ اللَّهِ. That as it relates to the portion of the verse, those that do good, for them is al-husna, good, then what is intended here is paradise, al-jannah. وَزِيَادَةِ, and in addition, they both said the gazing at the face of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The gazing at the face of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. These two particular narrations point to the gazing at the face of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala for the believers in the indirect sense, meaning it was interpreted by some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, showing that that is what is intended by these verses. However, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala likewise says this in an explicit sense. As we find the statement of our Lord in Surah Al-Qiyamah verses 22 and 23, where Allah says, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاذِرَةٌ. That some faces on that day will be illuminated. They'll be radiant, they'll be glowing. As a result of what? Looking at their Lord. Looking at their Lord. Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, he states, نَظَرَتْ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا. They would be looking at their Lord. فَنُظِرَتْ بِنُورِهِ. And they will be illuminated by way of His, yani Allah's light. They will be illuminated by His, or as a result of His, or Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala's light. This particular inevitable occurrence will be that which will be bestowed upon those that sacrifice and struggle in this dunya, that restrict themselves in accordance with their ability to the commands of Allah during times of ease and hardship, during times of adversity and prosperity, to the best of their ability. This reward will be given to those that are sincere to Allah when they bow and they prostrate to Him. Sincere to Allah when they call out to Him, publicly and privately. This is for those that fear Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and reflect upon Him and reflect upon His creation and recognize that that which we find within this creation, the universe, points to a sublime, perfect, and free from flaw and defect creator that is unlike anyone or anything else that we know of in this creation. This is who that reward will be for. As for those that turn away from guidance and are pleased with the following of desires and are engrossed in disbelief and are engulfed in disobedience to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then they will have no chance at partaking in this reward. They will have no chance at that. Thus, for us, ya ibadallah, it is incumbent upon us as we walk throughout this society that is filled with decadence and filled with sinfulness and filled with immorality, to stay focused on that which is considered to be true success. Not just the passing away from this life and the entering of paradise and enjoying the felicities and the bounties that are contained therein, but likewise being able to gaze at the Lord of all that exists, of all that we see around us, no matter how significant it may or magnificent it may seem to us in this creation. For this reason, it is incumbent upon us, ya ibadallah, to reflect on who it is to whom which the believers will gaze at on this day. On this day. In illustrating this, then I'd like to quote a verse from Surah Maryam, verse 65, where Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فَاعْبُدْهُ وَاصْطَبِرْ لِعِبَادَتِهِ هَلْ تَعْلَمُ لَهُ سَمِيًّا. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, Lord of the heavens and the earth, and that which is between the two. So worship Him and be extremely patient as it relates to His worship. Do you know of an equal with Him? Do you know of an equal with Him? This particular verse is tremendous, ya ibadallah, in its meaning and in its intent. And this is the verse that I want to somewhat expound upon when looking at and reflecting upon who the Lord is to whom which the believers will gaze at on this day. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He starts the verse off with رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا, Lord of the heavens and the earth and that which is between the two. This statement is an affirmation for the quality of lordship that belongs to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. That belongs to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And the statement, Rabb, in the language of the Arab, can be applied in several different ways. Now, before continuing, just from a standpoint of benefit, words in the Arabic language could take one of three meanings. I didn't say that they always take one of three meanings. I said that they could take one of three meanings. The first is what we call a lughawi meaning. That being a linguistic meaning, meaning a meaning from the language perspective. Second, they can take a shar'i meaning, meaning an Islamic technical definition. An Islamic technical definition. Or three, they could take an urfi meaning, a customary meaning with the Arab. An example of this is like the word salah. Before the advent of the Prophet ﷺ, the word salah was an Arabic word used in the linguistic sense. Its meaning was dua, supplication. But after the advent of Muhammad ﷺ and the legislation of al-Islam and the command with the salat 5 times a day, then there arose an Islamic technical definition. An act of worship that is devoted to Allah by way of specified actions from standing, bowing, and prostrating, and thus forth and so on, that is entered with the takbir and it is exited with the taslim. It took this particular definition after the advent of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's from the standpoint of benefit. When looking at the word Rabb, then this word from the linguistic perspective takes several different meanings. The first meaning is Maliku shay'u sahibuhu, the owner of or possessor of a thing. The owner and or possessor of a thing. That's one of the meanings in the language for the word Rabb, which is normally translated as Lord. The second meaning is Malik, a king or monarch. A king or monarch. The third is As-Sayyid al-Muta', an obeyed master. An obeyed master. The fourth is At-Tarbiyah. And At-Tarbiyah, it is the originating of a thing, taking it from one stage to another until it comes to its completion. That is what is intended by tarbiyah, originating something, taking it from stage to stage until it comes to its completion. That is also a meaning of Rabb in the Arabic language. The fifth meaning is al-muslih li shay, one who corrects or rectifies something. One who corrects or rectifies something. Without a doubt, all of these meanings, from the language perspective, are all considered to be truthful when it comes to Allah. Because Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the King. The King. He is the owner or possessor of everything. He is one that brings something into existence from non-existence, taking it from stage to stage until it reaches its completion. He is one that corrects or rectifies something. So without a doubt, all of these meanings would apply to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. But that is as it relates to the language. And when looking at Rububiyyah istilahan, from the Islamic technical perspective, then we know that it is a category of at-tawheed that literally translates into or means ifradullah bi-af'alihi, to single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala as it relates to His actions. This is a general definition. But as Shaykh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymin, or rahmatullahi ta'ala alayh, he came with a definition that was somewhat or a little more specific than that in his explanation to Thalathatul Usul, and where he said that it is ifradullah bil khalq wal mulk wal tadbir, that it is to single out Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala as it relates to creation, to sovereignty, and to regulation of the affairs of the universe. Regulation or managing the affairs of the universe. This is what one has to have in place in order to actualize his belief in the rububiyyah of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And these things are seen throughout the text of the Qur'an and the Sunnah. If we were to take a look at al-khalq, yani creating or creation, then there are an abundant of verses found within the Qur'an. From them the statement of Allah, Allahu khaliqu kulla shay'in wa huwa ala kulli shay'in wakil. Allah is the creator of everything. And He is the wakil over everything. Another statement of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in this regard is a statement, الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقًا وَبَدَأَ خَلْقَ الْإِنسَانِ مِنْ طِينٍ. He who has الَّذِي أَحْسَنَ, beautify everything He's created, and He began the creation of man with clay. ثُمَّ جَعَلَ نَسْلَهُ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ مَاءٍ مَهِينٍ. Then He placed or made His progeny from semen of despised water, or semen from despised water. ثُمَّ سَوَّاهُ وَنَفَخَ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِهِ. Then He shaped or fashioned him and blew into him His spirit. His spirit, meaning not a piece or a chunk of Allah, as the Christians falsely state. On the contrary, a spirit that Allah created for that human. A spirit that Allah created for that human. وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ وَالْأَفْئِدَةَ قَلِيلًا مَا تَشْكُرُونَ. And He created for you all, or placed within you all, hearing, sight, and hearts, but only a little from amongst you are thankful. Only a few or a minority amongst you all are thankful. These are some of the verses that we find in the text of the Qur'an that point to something that is undebatable with people that have intelligence, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the creator of everything that we see around us. Everything that we see around us. So this is one of the things that has to be actualized when one believes in the rububiyyah of Allah. The second is al-mulk, that this Lord has sovereignty or dominion over everything. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Blessed is He in whose hands is the dominion. The dominion of what? The dominion of the heavens and the earth. And He is capable of all things. He is capable of all things. The verses likewise in this regard are in abundance. This is likewise something that must be actualized or believed in order to actualize one's belief in the rububiyyah of Allah. Likewise, we have a tadbir. A tadbir. Yani is referring to Allah being the one that regulates the affairs of the creation. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, يدبر الأمر من السماء إلى الأرض ثم يعرج إليه في يوم كان مقداره ألف سنة مما تعدون. He states that it is He who regulates the affairs from the heavens to the earth. They return to Him in a day, or in the space whereof is 1,000 years of reckoning. 1,000 of our years of reckoning. These are some of the qualities of the Lord that the believers will be gazing at on that day. This is the reality of the one whose face those who are privileged to gaze at will be looking at on that day. Just off of these aspects alone, the creator, being a creator of everything, having sole dominion over everything, regulating the affairs not of the heavens and the earth, but the universe in its entirety. Is this not someone whose face that we want to gaze at? Is this not someone whose face we want to be privileged to take a look at? Without a doubt, for the believer, the answer is yes. But we have to strive in order to obtain that. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, after that, He says, فَعْبُدْهُ. So worship Him. The qualities that we just mentioned from the qualities of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala's Lordship, when reflecting and pondering over those qualities, then they necessitate that worship, servitude, humility should be directed to Him alone and to no one else. That there is no one or nothing in this creation that merits the servitude of any of us in this room and outside of this room, except the Lord of all that exists. Except the Lord of all that exists. If an individual directs any aspect of servitude to anyone or anything else, then this is in reality the example of a loser. This is in reality the example of a loser. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He teaches us in His noble book, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ. Indeed, they disbelieved those that say Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He is the Messiah, son of Mary. وقال المسيح يا بني إسرائيل اعبدوا الله ربي وربكم. So the Messiah, He said, O descendants of Israel, worship Allah, my Lord and your Lord. My Lord and your Lord. And then Allah quotes Him as saying to them, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ الْجَنَّةِ وَمَأْوَاهُ النَّارِ وَمَا لِلظَّالِمِينَ مِنْ أَنصَارٍ. And whoever, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ, whoever associates a partner in worship with Allah, then Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will make prohibited for him the paradise. It will be haram for him to enter paradise. And his abode will be the fire. And there will be no helpers, no one to give assistance to those that are oppressive. Because for those that understand and recognize that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the Lord and the Creator of everything, that He has sovereignty and dominion over everything, and He regulates and manages the affairs of the universe, and then He turns around and says, oh Jesus, oh Buddha, oh whatever, then this is an individual that merits to be barred from the felicities and the bounties that those that stuck to that which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala loves and is pleased with will experience. His being barred from that is justified. Is justified. The point here, when discussing the aspect of Allah and He being the one to whom which the believers will gaze at, is the fact that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the only one that merits or deserves worship. Everyone in this creation whose eyes we gaze at do not deserve our servitude. Regardless if it's a person or an inanimate object, no matter how magnificent it may seem to some, the sun, the moon, and whatever else may be in the creation, it does not merit our servitude and our worship and our devotion in that regard. The only one who merits that, the believers in the next life will be able to gaze at him. Will be able to gaze at him. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala continues, Hal ta'lamu lahu samiyan. Do you know of anyone that is like him? A comparison to him. And for the believers from Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the answer is La. No. We don't know of a comparison and or equal to Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has no partners, no likenesses from any aspect. There is no aspect in which a comparison can be made to Allah. But what do I mean by that? If we were to look into the qualities of Allah's Dhatiyya al-Ma'anawi, for instance, Al-Dhatiyya al-Ma'anawi would be qualities of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala that are, for lack of better translations, intangible. Like, for instance, His mercy, His knowledge, His sight. Not saying His eyes, but His sight, His hearing, His wisdom, and thus forth and so on. When we look at those qualities, then the qualities that are with Allah are from the aspect of perfection, free of flaw and defect. Free of flaw and defect. When looking at the knowledge that is had with human beings, and the knowledge that is had with human beings is limited, and the human being started off ignorant, and the human being will most likely leave this earth forgetting a lot of what he knew in his younger days. So the human being's knowledge is preceded by ignorance and succeeded with forgetfulness. And so we see a flaw or defect in that regard, that which Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is free of. Likewise, the knowledge of the human being is limited because the human being doesn't know everything. In fact, modern science is still discovering new things about the human body. About the human body. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is without a doubt more knowledgeable concerning ourselves than we are. Thus, there is no comparison between any aspect of this creation and Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Not just if we were looking at as-sifat al-dhatiyya al-ma'nawi in a general sense, but when we get specific and bring out just one aspect of that sifat, we see that there's no comparison whatsoever. When looking at another aspect of His al-dhatiyya al-ma'nawiyya, we look at the quality of hikmah or wisdom. Now, we all have elders amongst us. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He gives to our elders that which He does not give to the youth of wisdom due to their life's experiences. And we have some elders that may have been in the company of certain people for years. And they literally can predict what somebody would do if they were in or faced with a certain circumstance or situation. So they may say, "Oh, if this happens, he's going to do this. If this happens, he's going to do that." And that occurs, and you find that person doing exactly what that elder said. This is from the wisdom that Allah has given that elder. And some of us younger brothers are amazed at that. MashaAllah, the brother's wise. MashaAllah, the elder has wisdom. And thus forth and so on. Yet and still, the wisdom of that elder is limited, is flawed, It has defect. It's not perfect. When you look at the Lord of all that exists, the Lord of all that exists has wisdom that cannot be compared. You cannot strike a similarity to it with the wisdom of anyone. The wisdom of the elders pales in comparison. It doesn't even match up. It doesn't match up. And for this reason, we accept the legislation of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in its entirety. Why? Because we know that the Lord to whom which we worship has perfection as it relates to His wisdom and that which He legislates, and perfection in His legislation. In His legislation. So that's one aspect. Then when we look at the aspect of Allah's Sifat al-Dhatiyya al-Khabariyya, and these are the sifat that are considered to be or affirmed to be not body limbs, but for lack of better expressions and translations, because in the Arabic language they say ajza wa abda, parts or portions of Allah. This is as it relates to the face of Allah, or Allah's two hands, or Allah's two eyes, and thus forth and so on. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala in His verse, He states, هَلْ تَعْلَمُ لَهُ سَمِيًّا? Do you know of an equal to Him? This can be answered by another verse, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing whatsoever that is like Him. Nothing. So because we're discussing and looking at the face of Allah, then we don't start to draw an image in our head and say, you know what, I think this is Allah, He has a beard and it's like this and it's kind of has some gray in it and, it's long and He has a little... Blah. We don't do as the Nation of Islam do and says that He's a flesh and bone man, black man, white man, whatever. We don't do this. We don't do as the Christians do, with all these portraits of Caesar Borgia with hanging on their walls, and then claim that that's Allah. We don't do that. We know with certainty, ilm al-yaqeen, that there is no imagery that a person can imagine where he actually thinks that he can begin to depict the Lord of all that exists. Why? Because anything that we can imagine, we're only taking from the creation. We're only taking that image from our imagination, from something that we've seen in the creation. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is not like His creation. If we were to take a look at the actions of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, then the actions of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, there is no comparison between actions of created beings and the actions of the Creator. If we look at the action of Allah concerning creating, this is an action. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is the one who truly creates. Why? Because He brings something into existence that was literally non-existent, without any blueprint or any example of that thing beforehand. So that this just doesn't point to this action of creating, but it also points to the fact that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has knowledge and has the ability to do whatsoever He wills. Whereas human beings, the creating that we do is that we take what is already in the creation, manipulate it, and reproduce it into something else. Like paper came from wood, basically. There was a manipulating of something that was already in the creation to make this. There was no such thing as, there was no paper here, then a human being brought it into existence. So when looking at these aspects that are found in this particular verse, then this should instill in the hearts of the believers a desire to gaze at the one that has these qualities with him. It should instill in the believers a drive or a desire, an unwavering drive or desire to be able to gaze at the one that has these qualities. I want to quote a narration, and this would be in closing, inshallah, that will hopefully be an encouragement for us in this goal that we have embarked upon with our Islam. This narration is collected by Imam Muslim in his Sahih, and it is upon the authority of Suhaib. When the Prophet ﷺ, he stated, إِذَا دَخَلَ أَحْلُ الْجَنَّةِ الْجَنَّةِ يقول الله تبارك وتعالى لهم. When the people of paradise have entered paradise, then Allah, the Blessed and Exalted, He will say to them, أَتُرِيدُونَ شَيْئًا أَزِيدُكُمْ. Do you all desire a thing that I may increase you in? Now, reflect of the response of the inhabitants of paradise. They will respond to the Lord of all that exists. أَلَمْ تُبَيِّضْ وُجُوهَنَا أَلَمْ تُدْخِلْنَا الْجَنَّةَ وَتُنَجِّنَا مِنَ النَّارِ. Have you not already brightened our faces? Have you not already entered us into paradise? Have you not already saved us from the fire? Have you not already saved us or liberated us from the fire? This response was out of, as the ulama state, out of amazement. The believers will be amazed that Allah will be asking them to increase them in reward, because they will have all in which they desire. The Prophet ﷺ stated, فَيَكْشِفُ الْحِجَابِ. Then the veil would be removed. فَمَا أُعْطُوا شَيْئًا أَحَبُّ إِلَيْهِمْ مِنَ النَّذْرِ إِلَى رَبِّهِمْ. And they will not be given a thing that is more beloved to them than the gazing at their Lord. Keep this in mind, ya ibadallah. They will already be experiencing the felicities and the bounties of paradise. They will already have what they believe, all that their hearts desire. They will already be in a state of bliss and happiness. But then when this happens, there won't be anything more beloved to them than the gazing at their Lord. In closing, this is a reward that will be given to those that sacrifice in this life. As Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He states, هَلْ جَزَاءُ الْإِحْسَانِ إِلَّا الْإِحْسَانِ فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبُّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. Is there any reward for good except good? So which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? And with that, سُبْحَانَكَ اللَّهُمَّ وَبِحَمْدِكَ أَشْهَدُ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ أَسْتَغْفِرُكَ وَأَتُوبُ إِلَيْكَ